If you feel like you are spending hours and hours of your week creating reels and showing up on stories and engaging on Instagram and doing all the things you're supposed to be doing to get followers and get sales from your Instagram account and it's just not working, this is the episode for you because I am going to break down why that is happening and what you need to be doing instead so you can spend less time on social media and more leads and sales for your business. Welcome to Mompreneur Mastery. I'm your host, Sydney O'Brien, an Instagram strategist turned content and messaging strategist after watching the online space get louder, buyers take longer, and content turn into a performance instead of real connection. On this podcast, you'll learn how to clarify your message so your content actually stands out in a sea of copy and paste trends and AI noise, and also how to strategize your content across platforms to build the trust and connection that turns followers into clients. All in doable, brain space saving episodes you can fit in between school pickup and reheating your coffee for the third time. Let's dive in. I went to an in-person business event recently, and as me and these other amazing, talented, super smart business owners were all sitting around chatting, the same struggles kept coming up, and a lot of the things that we were talking about related to content, right? It's harder to get clients now. Okay, that one isn't content specific, but the next one is. Socials aren't working like they used to. Social media marketing. People spend so much time on it, on creating content, on showing up in stories, on engaging with others, because we all know our audience is on these places, mostly Instagram, but we're not getting the leads and sales that we used to maybe a year or 2, 3, or even 4 years ago. Okay. It used to be very, very different. So we know it works. We know it can work because it used to. So it doesn't make sense not to do it at all. But the more we try to spend more time on it and optimize like the things we are creating, the more it feels like we're just wasting time. And the thing is, all of us in that room and a lot of my listeners as well are also moms, right? Typically primary caregivers. And we have a million other things to do because most of us are solopreneurs. So we're wearing all the hats in our business as well as all the hats in our homes as that primary caregiver. We do not have time to waste if it's not going to actually help us in some way. When we do a task, we need it to be as efficient as possible so we can get back to the rest of our incredibly daunting to-do list. So let's make sure that when you share stuff, it actually is helping your business, okay? And the first thing I want you to know to do that is posting isn't guiding, right? You could fill a feed. I know you know what you're talking about. I know you probably can create or use ChatGPT to come up with a whole bunch of post ideas for you. And they probably feel really great and they look great and they sound great. Or maybe, these ideas come from seeing trends and applying them to your business and your knowledge or just knowing your audience super well. I know that at least generally, even if you have trouble formulating it into a post, what topics to share about on Instagram. But the thing with marketing is, and this is more important than ever now, is that we're seeing longer buying times and we're seeing audiences need more touch points than ever before they're ready to buy. So because of that, we can't post just to post. We need to use our content to guide our audience toward buying. I have a previous episode that outlines exactly what this journey looks like, but it's, attracting the right audience, having engagement content to start these conversations, connection content to foster that deeper sense of connection, trust building content so they trust us and what we say we can do for them. And then the sales content, right? You don't want to jump right to the wrong step and miss those middle parts. But essentially, no one is going to see one or even a few posts and just be ready to buy. You have to create an ecosystem of content wherever you're showing up that guides them by showing them who you are, how you work, who you help and how, and why you're the best person for them specifically. And it's always best to do this in order, like I said, right? I was making cookies with my kids earlier. I don't do that by just throwing a bunch of ingredients onto the pan and baking it. You have to mix them and in the right order first. And now that Instagram has changed so much over the years, maybe before it was getting you these perfect fit new followers pretty consistently, right? Now that might not be the case. Now, maybe it's a good place for you to create that engagement content and start having those conversations and share that connection content or maybe trust content. It's going to be different than it used to be. And that's why having the whole ecosystem of content so that you can rely on maybe your podcast or your blog, the SEO there is working to help you find those new perfect fit subscribers and bringing them into your marketing ecosystem. And then relying on, your newsletters and emails to build that connection and trust and actually invite them to buy. Having a plan for the places you're showing up so you aren't spending all of your time across all of the channels, right? So all of your channels are working together to get you that end result of leads and clients or whatever your process is. And you don't feel like you're throwing spaghetti at a wall, just seeing what sticks. Because random posting, random blogging, random podcasting, random emailing isn't a strategy. So before you create any other content, I want you to take a step back, think about what your Instagram is actually working for. Maybe it's not getting sales. Maybe, like I said, maybe it is getting followers. Maybe it's for engaging with your audience. Think about what is going well for you on Instagram and then just focus on that. And then make sure you have other avenues to do the other steps of your buyer journey. And then when you have that full picture, you can spend less time on socials because you have a plan for your posts, you know their purpose, and you know that they're working alongside the other work that you're doing. So socials isn't carrying your whole marketing plan. You again have that bigger picture ecosystem. And I know it might sound overwhelming, like having all of these things in place, but when you know what each channel is best for, which each platform is best for, you save yourself so much time and energy by being able to use it more effectively and not have to recreate everything on every channel. A thing I hear and see a lot of is people just constantly hopping on trends instead of having their own marketing plan or their own strategy. And I don't want to hate on trends. They're not evil. It's just not a strategy. When your content personality shifts every week based on what's trending, your audience never fully trusts you. I know I talked a bit about posting for trust, but a lot of trust with your audience that your audience needs to have in you is like this subconscious kind of trust, right? It comes in consistency in your messaging, consistency in your values and your speaking topics. It's not just showing social proof, right? There's this deeper level of trust. And when you're constantly hopping on like these super random trends, it can be harder to get that trust if they're opposing. I'm not saying all of them, but if they're not on brand with your normal messaging and marketing, then it's going to feel a little weird for your audience. So you want that consistency in your messaging, in your positioning, in the way you're showing up so you can build that subconscious trust along with that more like front-facing social proof type of trust. And when buying timelines are longer, because people are less trusting than ever, this stuff matters even more. People are taking longer and longer until they're able to fully give their trust to someone because of maybe being let down by a program or offer in the past. We're seeing more and more and more AI content that, again, is just filling a feed but saying a whole lot of nothing. So when you know your messaging and your positioning and you have a plan in place, not only will it help your audience and your marketing plan, but it's also going to help you stand out along that very generic AI slop that is filling everyone's feeds. I know we're all sick of it. So I know trends feel like a fun way to stay visible, and there is a way to use them strategically, but just doing trends is not a strategy on its own. It needs to work in the plan you already have that is guiding your audience to something. And also from a practical standpoint, especially as primary caregivers here, trends tend to pull you into a reactive mode, right? You're consuming more content to keep up rather than following your own plan. And it just takes a lot more time and energy to constantly recreate these things. And busy caregivers do not have the mental load or the time for such things. It's just not sustainable and it won't be consistent. And when it's not consistent, it won't convert. And I know another thing that I heard people talking about is, I just need higher reach. I just need better reels or better pictures or, a stronger hook. And that can help. Absolutely. Those things are important. I'm not going to pretend like they're not. That's like a very small piece. Before we dig into like the minute details of each and every post here, we need to be able to take that step back and address the whole strategy piece first, right? That's like foundation of like this marketing house that we're building before we get into like, what color walls do we want to have? What curtains do we want? That kind of stuff. Because big picture, people first need to understand the problem that you can help them solve. They need to be able to see that it's costing them time or money or something else and that you can fix that for them. They need to believe there's a better way than what they're doing now. And they need to believe that you specifically are the person to help. And that's what that buyer journey through your whole marketing ecosystem is going to accomplish. So if your content isn't intentionally moving them through those stages, it's just filler and noise. And unfortunately, a waste of your time because I know you're busy and you don't have time to waste. I want to make sure you have this foundational strategy first. And like you could be saying all the right things. It might just be in the wrong order or on the wrong platform for you, like I mentioned earlier, which means maybe your audience is interested, but they're just not quite there yet because they're not being properly guided to that end decision through all the right stages. When you map out your whole buyer journey across all these platforms, like I outlined, you can stop asking, what should I post today? And like, what does my audience need from me right now to move to the next step? Then you're not just posting, you're not just reacting, you're reacting to trends. You're following this plan to actually lead your followers somewhere, right? Then you have this big picture ecosystem, and an ecosystem is going to convert way better than isolated posts. And when you're a solopreneur, when you don't have a team, when you're doing it on your own, when you're doing it like rushing through things before you have to pick up your kids from school, or when you forget it's actually a half day, definitely not me, right? Your time is not just limited, it's fragmented. It's very hard to accomplish these big things in the small windows of time that you have, right? You don't have these big time blocks every day to brainstorm and experiment. You have random 30-minute pockets of time sometimes or interrupted work sessions, which means every piece of content you create should matter. You can't afford a bunch of throwaway posts or content that doesn't connect to your big picture buyer plan, or relying on platforms to do jobs that they're just not good at anymore. When you don't have that mapped out buyer journey across the platforms strategically, you compensate for that by doing more posts, more platforms, more efforts, spending more time on it. And you don't have that time. And I know you don't want to spend that effort because you have other things you need to be doing. I know you do. So when you have the map, when you have the plan, when you have that ecosystem, you actually get to do less, right? Because you know what each platform is responsible for. You know what each week of content is building toward, and you know that what belief you're reinforcing with your audience. You know how it connects to your offer. And you have that clarity, and it's going to reduce stress and it's going to save you time. You can stop wondering if it's working. You can start measuring the right things instead of worrying about, oh, is this hook strong enough? Should I have hopped on that one trend? Because you start seeing long-term movement instead of chasing daily validation and feeling like you have to spend more time on socials reactively instead of proactively with a plan. And that is what makes content marketing sustainable, not just for someone who's running a business, not just for a solopreneur, but for someone who's running a whole household and family too. Because the mental and emotional load of that is astronomical, and that is not talked about enough. So posting more isn't the answer. Better hooks isn't the answer. Hopping on a big trend, not the answer. Guidance is. If your content isn't guiding your audience through a clear buyer journey and you don't know which platform is doing which part of it, it's always going to feel heavier than it needs to. So I really urge you this week to zoom out and start mapping out that full ecosystem so you can spend less time creating and getting better results. That's the goal, right? Less chaos, less mental loads, more leads, more clients. If you're tired of guessing or you don't feel like you have the bandwidth to do it yourself, join us in Content to Clients, because every single month I have half-day Voxer sessions with the members in there, and one-on-one we work together to map out your content across all platforms to do this for you. And then throughout the month, they can share their content, their plans or their emails or their Instagram posts in Slack, and I can review it for them and give feedback on the content itself. Because I know everyone's plan is going to be a little different. Everyone's ecosystem is going to be a little different. So very generic frameworks don't work for everyone. So if you want some to help you map it out and apply it to your real life schedule, join us inside Content to Clients Club. I will link it in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here and for listening to me yap on Mompreneur Mastery. If planning your content and strategizing it still feels harder than it should, check out the Content Chaos Reset. You give it a little bit of information about your business and your offer, and it'll plan 2 weeks of content for you, posts, emails, blogs, or podcasts that all support each other so you have a cohesive marketing plan. It's free and it's linked in the show notes, or you can head to sydneyobrien.com/reset, RESET.